Hello and welcome back for the second contact front for Shadowrun. This is going to be, well, Roy isn't exactly a criminally active person, but there's plenty of opportunity for these people to still be of benefit to Shadowrunners to varying degrees of how they want to keep their criminal involvement limited or embrace it sometimes. He is currently a student, maybe an employee, like does a bit of the book room, that kind of stuff. Uh, at Seattle University. I'm sorry, words fell apart there. College is the next part of your educational journey, and there are things that change and or bring new stuff to your life, and there's things that are old things in your life uh, that never change. And as it is, Roy has a wouldn't call him a rival, but he has a problem. That problem's name is Butch. Butch is he's a he's a jock's jock. He is working on the sixth year. Is that a the sixth year of his associate's degree? He enjoys the time-honored traditions of sports, hazing, and partying. The idea here is there's a lot of people that are not necessarily criminally active that you can have be useful for your Shadowrunners. With Roy being at Seattle University, they have a lot of information that maybe your people would like to dig through. There could be an arcane library there that your mage is looking for some information about a spirit's true name, and a uh, the Seattle University like gift shop would be there. So if you guys wanted to get uh, you know things for disguises to play off as a uh, Letterman jacket or something along those lines, just to kind of fit in. There's a bunch of people there, that kind of thing. Um, there's also probably a pretty decent drug trade. He is a hermetic mage, so if you have a mage on your team, they could do magey things together. He doesn't necessarily have to be hermetic, but that is how I originally started him off. He's good with math and puzzles, so if you come to him with some kind of crazy mathematical equation you guys pulled out of some dude's comlink, he could kind of help you. And depending upon how you want to run your game with the purchase and the buying off of qualities, he could potentially actually help to tutor some of the less intellectually gifted people on your team. Maybe help with things like uneducated, illiterate, uh, that kind of stuff. For a introduction to the team, he would make a decent friend for one of your college age runners to have just as like a flavor contact. Maybe it's their dorm mate, maybe it's their uh, just a friend, maybe it's just somebody in their class that you know does pretty good on things. Um, if you guys have a job that takes place on the college campus, maybe you have to infiltrate and alter uh, somebody's grades. He could be the guy that's they're working late in one of the advisory shops, and all of a sudden it's like, what are you doing here? Um, or maybe he goes to the same talismonger that your mage goes to, and he is asking the talismonger for help. The talismonger comes to the runner for help. Hey, can you help this guy out for me? Just kind of like a small favor thing. So he's a bit of a nerd. That's great. Quick physical description, and then a physical description of Butch. These to clear it up, there was a small game that I was a part of where I actually played Roy as my character, and he of course was met with Butch, was there as an antagonist, but in a non-threatening fashion. When you are a Shadowrunner, things like danger take on completely different connotations than getting in trouble at school and having to miss your lab. So now all of a sudden you're kind of screwed out of the grades that you are working on that is keeping you in getting tuition. It's a completely different and seemingly mundane threat that sometimes, as professional criminals, we we don't really pay attention to. So the major fronts here are going to be all work and no play as one of the things here. Roy enjoys studying. He's the kind of guy that is going to wake up with his face stuck to a data pad and a bit of drool coming out of his mouth because he's studying or doing research or something, or probably doing somebody else's homework. Um, there's a lot of different ways that we can make it more interesting. Maybe he gets a new friend with a student from, let's say, Aslan, or I should actually change this to outside Seattle. From outside Seattle. From there, after they've had a little bit of interaction with um, Roy, calls them up and asks your mage player for help in getting some kind of weird reagent type things that isn't something that seems like he would be into. Like if he is a hermetic mage, maybe he's asking for the something a bit more shamanic or voodoo in nature. That he's like, hey, no, help me out with this. It works out doubly if that happens to be one of the traditions of your mage players. Like, hey, and then start asking him questions about it. Um, as Roy is, he's a nerd. Him talking about something that is completely out of his wheelhouse, maybe something aggressive and that kind of thing, kind of leads him into a different area. Um, and then if you know that dangerous place that he invites you to, what could it actually be? The impending doom here is what has Roy gotten himself into? As a couple of things here, if that friend is from Aslan, maybe that friend is, you know, being a nerd. And I'm sorry, guys, we are all nerds. Look at what we're watching right now and creating on for YouTube. There are many that are very socially manipulatable. And maybe this new student comes here and they meet him and they figure Roy for a target and then begin to convert him to something along the lines of blood magic or insect magic or toxic magic. And maybe when he calls up one of the runners to meet him in a dangerous place, it's to use him as a ritual sacrifice or for inhabitation by a bug spirit or what could go wrong? Or it could go a completely different way, and maybe this student from outside has gotten him into drugs, something way more mundane. Um, there's there's room to go any number of ways here, which is the intent on how these things are structured. Um, being a socially awkward person, Roy has not really gotten involved in the social aspects of college life. This is supposed to be a large branching out people for people after high school. Um, he is happy to be in his books and deal with his magical things, avoiding Butch. And then when you call him up for one time to ask for a favor, whatever it is you do, he mentions there's this new girl, and he hasn't been able to help with whatever project or whatever that if the runner is using him to try and get tutors, like, I'm sorry, I can't tutor you tonight. There's this new group project. There's this new girl that's just come into the class, and we got to kind of work out and catch her up to speed. I'm sorry, I can't. Um, later on, give you guys a couple weeks and a couple more runs. Maybe he calls up your social player to ask for social advice about something to do to interest this girl. This is maybe his first real romantic involvement, so he's going to a person he knows that is pretty well versed in this. Like, hey, can I get some help? And then Butch intervenes. Who knows what happens? Maybe he starts to try and date this girl and kind of pull him away from Roy. Maybe he just embarrasses Roy. Maybe he does any number of things. Um, then maybe there's a party at the school, and Roy knows that this girl is going to be there, and he wants to impress her. So, you guys take him out, buy him a nice suit, get him some dancing lessons. Here's a comm link, put these trodes on. I'll walk you through this night. It'll be an interesting role play opportunity, and then Butch happens. And the impending doom here is going to be ultimate embarrassment. Maybe the party goes wrong. Maybe it's not Roy's embarrassment. Maybe it's Butch's. And all of a sudden, through the interactions of your players, you have given Roy over time the social confidence to stand up for himself and overcome this aspect of his life to grow and be more than what he was. Or maybe they side with Butch because they decide that Butch's parties are awesome and that Butch can get them drugs. And Butch is way more on the level of like the fizz added street samurai who like to pump iron, and they work together to fully embarrass Roy. Who knows? College tuition. Oh man. So as an awakened person, he will of course be getting a scholarship because that is what happens when you have the privilege of being able to bend the world to your will. However, there's a different couple of different ways that this could go. Um, Maybe the scholarship he signed up for not fully reading the fine print, and the megacorp that is paying for said scholarship comes by to remind him of, hey, when you get out, we own you, or they threaten to cut funding to his scholarship, that kind of stuff. So he begins to go broke. Your money dries up, and with the interaction he's had with a megacorp who is gonna own him for the rest of his life, he's not really into that idea because that is not exactly a promising situation. And then the doom here is, which path does Roy's future take? Is he forced into um, megacorp slavery? Do you guys help him out and give him some money to live on? Do you guys introduce him to shadow work? Do you guys find a avenue of interest that will actually pay his scholarship and help him out? Maybe you have a Mr. Johnson who works for, let's say, Eva, and are interested in some of the things that he's been researching as part of like a biology paper or something along those lines. There's a It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Impending doom is such a negative connotation, but it is simply the the end to the situation, or that bit of your relationship. Uh, for a couple of different stakes here is, what greater role will Butch play? Butch is a antagonist to Roy. I may or may not make a separate contacting for him later on down the line, but he's at least going to get involved with him on a social level. Will he go and try to sabotage Roy's potential future? Is he got some other nerd under his thumb that he uses to sabotage Roy's uh, test scores or something along those lines? Is he secretly jealous? Maybe he's not the smartest guy. It's his sixth year here. Maybe you could set them up to work together. Like, Roy can tutor people. Maybe you just change that dynamic enough that they then begin to work together instead of what they had previously. Um, what is the price of friendship is along the lines of, this guy's not really a shadow person, but will he become one? Will you guys, how far are you guys willing to go for actual friendship when you could have just gotten off a phone call where you're being offered money to murder a man? And that's on like a normal day. So are you willing to go the extra mile to keep Roy from coming into the same fate as you, or are you going to not pay that price and watch as his tuition mounts up and he gets in deeper trouble or goes into deals with the megacorp? Are you not going to take those steps to improve his life in a social aspect a from the secondary front that was here? Are Do you have the time to go help him out with that last meeting that he asks you for, um, where there is the potential things for dark magic or drug problems or something along those lines? And then the question you have to ask yourself is, after this, is like, has your involvement made his life better? Did you try to make his life better? Did you try and fail to make his life better? There's a large number of ways that this could go, and it is more a question of my headset turning off. Um, More a question of how much effort did you put in? Is that something that your runners are interested in, or is he just another? It's just another person that's part of a body count. Um, it is really easy to see the impact you have had on people's lives in a overt fashion. People that you steal from on a run, people that you kidnap on a run, that kind of stuff. You can very clearly see the impact you have. But when it's a contact that's kind of on the fringe, not really in the shadows, but is willing to help you out, are you actually doing anything to improve his life? Or as you watch him spiral further downward, do you feel bad? Do you have that kind of humanity left in you as a shadow runner? That is that is the question Roy is here to ask. And hopefully this outline can give you guys a head start on getting that kind of idea going. As always, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. If interesting things happen to Roy in your game and you use him, please comment down below. It will help other people who look at this later on to have ideas on how they can adapt it for their own game. If you have any other questions, I am reachable on Twitter at gm_bamce, B-A-M-C, or by email at gmbamce@gmail.com. So thank you and have a good night.